Hey everyone, Luke here, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. Now I know it's been a few months since we've posted anything on this channel, but that has all been quite intentional because what we're doing at the moment, especially at this stage in our move from the UK to the US, is very strict in terms of immigration. There's lots of things we've got to satisfy, lots of things we've got to get right, and we don't want to share the wrong information with you or do something that could potentially jeopardize your case if you were trying to do the same thing as us. So now we're far enough down this rabbit hole, I wanted to actually tell you about where we're up to and what we've experienced so far. And as a quick spoiler, we actually have bought a business, which I'll talk about at the end of this video. Now this video is a high level overview of everything we've done. I'm going to be making individual videos on most of these topics I'm talking about. This one's just to quickly get up to speed. At the moment, we're actually living in my mum's box room. We've sold our property, we've got the funds, we've actually spent the funds, and well, as you guessed, this was a generator background and we are living in one room. This is all the privacy we have at the moment, guys. So we've got to be careful not to tread on each other's toes. So as soon as we get to the States, just even having a small apartment is going to feel just like complete freedom to us. So that's something I'm very much looking forward to. Now, with all that in mind, let's talk about the house sale. Now, we sold the house about 3 months ago. And if anyone's ever bought or sold a house in the UK, you know that this is a long, drawn-out process, especially from the legal side. We had a great conveyancer, great buyers, weren't messed around with anything, but the amount of checks and stuff that has to be done is just quite a lot. Now, unfortunately, what that means is because we're waiting on the funds of the house to actually be able to buy the business and start investing and start paying the attorney and getting this ball rolling, every day we were waiting for the funds to come in from the house was a day we had to delay at the end to move to the States, essentially. Thankfully, the money's here now anyway. So with all that in mind, whilst we were waiting for that, we had to make a key choice of, do we start a business from scratch or do we buy a business? And it's actually something we started to discuss as well with our attorney. Now, in a previous video, I talked about why I wanted to start a business from scratch, because I've seen people buy businesses and fall into particular pitfalls and find out that it wasn't quite the same on paper as it is in real life as you would expect. And I thought if I start from scratch, I can have a lower investment, I can have complete control. And if I was in the States now, I might just do that way still, because there's no requirements on how much you have to invest or having to impress and please the immigration services. But we've got to look at the optics from an immigration viewpoint. One of the stipulations of an E2 business is that the business is not just marginal, it's profitable. The other one as well is that you got to have substantial investments in the particular industry. So $100,000 in a pool cleaning business can be quite substantial because it doesn't have a high barrier to entry. $100,000 in a restaurant wouldn't get you anywhere. So you'd need like $400,000, $500,000 to be significant in that industry. With all that in mind, here's the main reason why building a business from scratch wasn't the best thing to do. It's purely about history and optics. You need to prove you're not marginal. So how do you prove that with a business that doesn't exist yet? That doesn't have any income, any customers, any tax returns, any balance sheets? It's not going to be very easy to convince that person sat in immigration that this is a good business to approve, unless you really go over the top and have a huge advertising budget that you will have had to commit to before the interview and really overinvested in that business. Ironically, what you perceive to be the cheaper route turned out to be more expensive, because if you buy a business that's already established, you get tax returns, you're getting balance sheets, you're getting actual tangible assets that you can talk about. It's like, how many clients do you have? How much is incoming each month? How much is going out on supplies and inventory and everything like that? It makes your case much stronger when you go there, because you can show that as soon as we get there in Florida or the US, our business is going to be profitable. So that's why we decided to go buy a business instead of starting one from scratch. And this is where the attorney does really become quite important, because you got to bear in mind that the attorney does this day in, day out. They know exactly how the optics of this need to look, what works, what doesn't, where to allocate your money, where to avoid putting your money into, what to say, what not to say. Now, the attorney is expensive. We paid $7,000 for ours and a further $2,000 for someone to write our business plan. So that's $9,000 in already. And the kicker of it is, depending on who you talk to, but according to our attorney, we can't use that as part of the business plan or the business investments. If we had an attorney for particular business consultation, that's fine. But an immigration attorney is not part of the business investments. You need to separate it. You got immigration, like here, and then you got the business here. So any immigration costs, they don't become part of the business investments. So we've had to essentially budget an extra almost $10,000 on top of what we were doing just to pay for legal fees. But I still think it's worth it. I think the attorney, from our experience, which I'll talk about in more detail in a dedicated video, has saved us more money in the long run than they have, well, than what the actual cost is. Kind of like how a good accountant can. And I think with the attorney's guidance, we've got much better peace of mind when we actually go through for our interview, which should hopefully be in the next few months. Moving on from that, it's the same reason why we wanted to get a business plan wrote up professionally, because we make sure we can tick all the boxes that immigration is going to require. And the thing is, it's a bit more than just a checkbox exercise, because there's no set amounts. There's not always you must do this or you mustn't do that. Sometimes it's what's the impression this person gets from you, how's your story look. So actually, with these moving goalposts in certain areas, an attorney's great in navigating that minefield. Moving on to the business brokers. That's another kind of like, let's say, professional that we've been dealing with. We bought our business through a broker. I do recommend buying through a broker. Again, just like the attorney, they know exactly what they're doing. They have a reputation. They don't want to be selling crap, because if they do, their reputation is going to tank. And some brokers out there, they even specialize in E2 businesses. But because the broker has this reputation, they look into potential businesses they're selling, and they're going to vet that business to a certain extent. Now, don't take the words, like everything the broker says, as gospel. They are still trying to make a sale at the end of the day, and that's their first and foremost priority. But there is a lot more peace of mind buying from a broker than just buying off like an advert on Facebook. What our broker has done, looking at it, is be able to say that, there's a balance sheet, that the tax returns there, they've looked through them, it all makes sense. They can kind of validate that this business is viable, as opposed to if you're just buying off Facebook or Craigslist, it's harder for you to actually validate that business unless you're a real specialist yourself in kind of business brokerage or accountancy or just filing tax returns. This is going to be a bit difficult, and if you're coming not from the US as well, you're navigating new territory. So the business broker definitely is worthwhile in that regard, even if you will pay more for the business. Again, dedicated video on the broker and our experience with them. But quite frankly, I'm glad we had them on board. And if we didn't have the broker, we wouldn't have found the business. Which brings us on to the business we bought. Right before we went out to the States, the day before we went out, we spoke to our broker. We'd looked all over the internet. We found nothing, because we had a particular town, particular type of business we wanted, particular budget, and our broker said, hey, no chance. Do you know how little businesses there are at the moment? What you're asking for there is near impossible. But we told him what we wanted anyway. He written it down. We flew to the States the next day, because we had this 2-week time frame that we were going to go and buy a business out there, and we couldn't find anything when we were getting out there. We were going to be knocking on people's doors. We were going to be sending emails and Facebook messages and just trying to find something we could buy. Thankfully, as we were on the plane to Florida, the broker has actually emailed us and say, give me a call as soon as you get this message. There's a business you might be interested in. Lo and behold, there was a business we were very interested in. $79,000, 55 pools, and came with its own pickup truck. I was like, hallelujah, that is exactly what we were looking for. And it was in a great area, not too far from where we want to live. As much as the broker said it wasn't going to happen, it came across his desk at the right time. Now, here's one of the reasons why the broker is so important to talk to. That never got on the website. A lot of businesses that brokers get don't go on their websites. Again, I'll talk about this in a dedicated video, but because they had us in mind, because we showed them we were serious, We got the first call. Like, and that was just amazing. And that's the business we ended up buying in the end. Again, full video on how we found the business and what this business is. But we bought what looks to be an ideal business for us. And that's where we're up to with our business at the moment. We've got the handover on the 1st of Feb, which actually means we take ownership of this business before we get granted a visa. We are allowed to operate that as a manager, so I'll get into that and all about subcontracting in a dedicated video. There's a lot to go over there, but everything's looking like it's going to plan at the moment. Now we just need to file the application, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, wait for an interview with the embassy, and then hopefully we can get on a plane and start our new life in the States. It'll all be happening in the next few months, so stay tuned. You know what to do. If you want to know more about this, leave a comment in the comment section below and hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon so you're alerted of any new videos as soon as they drop. Until then, thank you all for watching, see you soon, and take care.